Relating to the tweets, it's reported that a second person was killed in the violent protest that broke out in the Johannesburg CBD yesterday. Hostile dwellers allegedly marched through the city centre demanding that migrants leave. At least 16 people were arrested for the alleged looting of several shops and damage to property. A group of men disrupted IFP President Emeritus Mangosuthu Buthelez's speech following a week of xenophobic attacks. Now, the areas affected include Malvern, Jeppes and Hillbrow. We now cross live to our reporter Malungelo Boy, who's in Malvern, one of the areas that has been heavily targeted. Malungelo, a very good morning to you. Really chaos unfolding. Talk us through what exactly is happening in Malvern.
That's right. In fact, one of the things that is actually quite apparent in this area is that it's after 9 o'clock, Mpo, and most businesses here are closed in this street. We're in Jewel Street, one of the busiest streets here, and there's not a single business that's opened. But also one of the things that you'll notice is that there's in almost each and every corner, there's a group of migrants that are standing there. Obviously, they're sort of like looking out for each other. There's a lot of destruction as well. You see shops that have been destroyed, others that have been burnt. Actually, earlier our first location, Paul, was near a shop where that was set alight yesterday, and in fact that shop, it was still burning. And we're talking to some of the people actually that were there, saying that it is time for the South African government to work in trying to find a solution to this ongoing problem, and of course saying that they do fear for their safety and that they want the government to act as a matter of agency. In fact, one of the suggestions that came out from one of the men that I spoke to, his name was Eric, saying that in fact the South African government must rope in traditional leaders, so that traditional leaders, because they're at the grassroots level, they would be able to interact with some of these people that appear to be behind these attacks. You can see this is one of the structures that has been destroyed or damaged over the past few weeks, as this community, as the city, as Gauteng battles with the attacks on migrants. And of course, there was that imbizo that was expected to be held yesterday with the police minister and of course the police ministry postponing that imbizo, saying that they had also interacted with with some of the leaders at these hostels and councillors about the postponement, saying that a new date of that gathering will be announced in due course, and of course saying that they are committed in working with all stakeholders in finding a solution to this problem. But also one of the things that you see, when you move around this area is the heavy police presence in some parts of the city. I mean, when we were coming here, we could see a police patrolling, and that's one of the things that the police ministry has committed to, is saying that there will be more police on the ground, members of the South African Police Service and JMPD. You see them moving around, making sure that we don't see the attacks again, as we saw yesterday and over the past few days. Mpo?
Malungelo, still staying with the police. I mean, 2 people were killed overnight. I know that police are investigating whether the killings are in fact related to the violence and the chaos that we've seen unfold in the streets there. Do we know any more information, on the way going forward regarding these killings that happened overnight?
Well, what we know, Mpo, is that yesterday there was one person that was confirmed to us by police. That person apparently was stabbed with a sharp object. When I asked them about the second, the second death, police really could not confirm it to me, but also could not rule out that it is indeed there was a second person who died, saying that some of the people that were arrested yesterday there were some people that were also injured that had to be taken to hospital, saying that it could be perhaps one of those people who was taken to hospital yesterday. But of course, they could not confirm that to me earlier. One of the things, though, that they did confirm, Paul, was that yesterday they arrested at least 16 people for the violence that we saw yesterday. I think, Paul, it's also important for us to bring this point that the South African Council of Churches yesterday held a prayer session. And I mean, one of the things that came out from that prayer session from the South African Council of Churches was that they have set up a task team. The role of that task team would be to interact with residents in hostels, to interact with foreign nationals, to interact with government officials, all in a bid for Mpo to find a solution to this problem that continues to recur every year. In fact, the Secretary General of the South African Council of Churches, Bishop Mpumlwana, saying that we needed to saying that the country needed to come up with concrete and practical plans on how to deal with this problem, saying that we can't keep on having this problem of attacks on migrants, saying that the attacks on migrants are nothing else but xenophobia.
Malungelo, we also know that there's been a very thin line between xenophobia and violence and crime, where there's a criminal element and xenophobia. Now, just going back to last week and what we heard throughout most of last week, especially looking at the Nigerian nationals who were speaking about violence, also really arming with pangas and knives, saying that they will also defend themselves in whatever manner. You know, looking at last week's tone and comparing it to this week and what you're seeing, and as you interact with the foreign nationals on the streets, what are the differences?
I mean, you know, Mpo, people here are clear, especially those that I've been talking to, those are foreign nationals. I mean, they are saying that they're here in South Africa to survive. Some of them have fled their countries for a number of reasons. And they're saying that, I mean, they're here to survive, and they're surviving on legitimate businesses, and saying that it is not correct to say all of them are here to steal jobs, are here to sell drugs, are here to steal South African women from South African men, saying that not all of them are involved in all these criminal activities, but they are not shying away that some of the foreign nationals in South Africa are also involved in criminality. But they're also saying that some South Africans as well are involved in criminality. So saying that it's not correct to say every foreign national that's in this country is actually a criminal or is involved in criminal activity whatsoever.